And empowered. On our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and boy, oh boy, do we have a mountain that we have to move. The question before us in this hour is whether or not we are in a cold civil war. Methinks so, that we're in a cold civil war. Obviously, a hot civil war is a very violent conflict between two different opposing and warring parties in a political context. Internecine warfare is very different than the Ukrainians versus the Soviets, or even the Palestinians fighting for their justice and right to determination with the Israelis. when some members of our family are in red states and some members of our family are in blue states, and when members of our family that are in red states are talking about moving out of those states because they don't have or won't have representation in the Congress of the United States, and moving to states and congressional districts where they would have representation, that should give you some indication that some people are now coming north, some people are reflecting upon moving south on both sides of the political divide. We are in a cold civil war, even if the political pundits don't want to call it that. In 1854, our interests were aligned with the newly formed Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln. In fact, Martin Luther King Jr.'s father was a Lincoln Republican. And so were the first 16 African Americans elected to the Congress of the United States between 1877 and 1896. By the turn of the century, they were all gone. Just like the 4 African Americans who've served in Congress as part of the MAGA coalition, they are no longer in the Congress of the United States. Because in this factionalized politics, race again is central. In 1854, our interests were aligned with the newly formed Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln that promised to stop the expansion of slavery into the Western territories and against the position of the slave party, the Democratic Party of 1793, the party of Thomas Jefferson, and of course, the operational party of Andrew Jackson in 1828 that argued for the expansion of slavery into the Western territories. African Americans were not Democrats at the beginning of Jeffersonian democracy, and they certainly were not supportive of Andrew Jackson, the Democrat, in 1828, who was arguing for the expansion of slavery into the Western territories. Today, however, our interests, our politics are aligned with the Democratic Party of John Lewis, of Jesse Jackson, of Barack Obama, of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and against the Republican Party of Goldwater, Reagan, and Donald Trump. With the Louisiana versus Calais decision, the Supreme Court decision, both parties are fighting, listen to this very carefully, their majorities in Congress and in state legislatures as a result of this infamous decision, while our interests in self-representation are not being represented by either. That's right. At this very hour, no one's fighting for majority, minority congressional districts, their distinguished colleagues, their buddies, people they've been slapping on the back and playing golf with and talking about whatever it is that you talk about in the cloakroom, in committee. That's not what's happening right now. African Americans are fighting for their lives in Congress. Democrats are fighting for a majority in Congress. They call them now competitive districts. And they don't care what color the candidate is who runs in that district, as long as they identify themselves as Democrats. The 15th Amendment to the Constitution is a very race-specific, the right to vote for Black men, amendment to the Constitution. Black men, the language is clear, Negro men, is race and gender specific. To argue that race remedies are illegal under the Constitution is a lie. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution are race-specific amendments. This court just chooses to ignore them. The 4 Black Republican congressmen who were part of the Trump MAGA coalition are gone. The Republican Party in the House of Representatives is a white party. Because of the Supreme Court decision, Democrats are no longer fighting for majority minority districts. They're fighting to win control in competitive districts. We haven't seen this fight since the end of First Reconstruction, again, when 16 Blacks served in the Congress as Lincoln Republicans, the first Congressional Black Caucus. The second Congressional Black Caucus was founded after Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954, and more specifically after the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Some Democratic states, let's just call them blue, are now seeking to eliminate all Republican dissenting opinion. Some Republican states, let's just call them red, are now seeking to eliminate all Democratic dissenting opinions. And therefore, both political parties are reducing dissenting opinions within the states, within their states. to political factions without representation, regardless of color, at both the federal and state level. When political parties eliminate dissent within their own states, they are in effect withdrawing from the Union. It feels like April 12th through the 13th, 1861 in Fort Sumter, South Carolina. That must have been what it felt like. South Carolina sought no more dissent of its hard line on slavery. As I prepare to close, winning control of Congress, whether Democratic control or Republican control, is to win and govern on the terms of separation, not union. Neither party will accept the other's outcome, control, or governance. And I don't believe it to be an understatement that the Voting Rights Act of 1965, to this point, has held the Union together. More on this opine when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. We're going to talk about the Cold Civil War today.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Deshauna Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit Tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
When did watching TV go from a way to relax to a complicated chore? Well, if you're sick of huge cable bills or endlessly searching for the show everyone's talking about, then welcome to Philo. Philo's the streaming service that respects both your time and your wallet, without needing to cut the stuff you actually love to watch. This means live TV for more than 70 channels like Hallmark, History, A&E, and Lifetime, plus a huge library of blockbuster movies and classic shows, and an easy-to-use unlimited DVR that lets you save anything you want, skip all the ads when you watch. The best part? You get all this for just $25 a month when you sign up at Philo.tv. No hidden fees, no long contracts, just a genuinely great deal. And new users can try it completely free for 7 days. So head to Philo.tv, that's PHILO.tv, and experience a better way to TV. Subscriptions auto-renew at monthly rate plus applicable taxes. Cancel anytime. See terms at Philo.tv.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Junior Show. King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the need. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the need. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Moving Mountain Mondays. I continue the opine. Winning control of Congress in 2028, this coming November, Democratic control or Republican control, is to win and govern on the terms of separation, not union. Neither party is going to accept the other's outcome, control or governance. I don't believe it to be an understatement that the Voting Rights Act of 1965 actually held the Union together since 1965. During the first Reconstruction era, roughly between 1867 and 1877, a total of 16 African Americans served in the United States Congress. This included 2 senators and 14 representatives, mostly from the South, with Joseph Rainey being the first Black member of the House in 1870 and Hiram Revels, the first Black senator in 1870. Everything has changed with the exception of our thinking. We are in a cold civil war. I also find it somewhat fascinating as I prepare to introduce our guest that when the Civil War broke out, when the shot was fired at Fort Sumter, that the state of South Carolina was no longer interested, if you will, in Republican. Remember, Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican candidate to be nominated for the presidency and win the presidency in 1860. His very election, and before he was even sworn in, began the American Civil War. The state of South Carolina, before he was sworn in, immediately reacted by taking over and seeking to seize a federal fort known as Fort Sumter. South Carolinians were no longer interested in the dissenting opinion of Republicans who did not want to hear or see the expansion of slavery into the western states. So the Democrats of South Carolina decided to secede from the Union, to be followed shortly thereafter by many other states from Virginia around to Texas, who insisted on the expansion of slavery into the western states. And it is those very states that from that moment to the present have resisted the idea of equal participation in the voting processes and franchise. And so what did they do? What did we have to do? We marched, we died, we fought for a constitutional interpretation that overturned Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896 with Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954. Emmett Till was killed. His dramatic death and viewing triggered a movement. Rosa Parks sat down on a bus, and when asked the question, "Why did you take your seat?" she said, "I was thinking about Emmett Till, and I wasn't moving." Martin Luther King Jr. came to her rescue, and the rest is history, including the fight against Southern Democrats who did not want a Civil Rights Act of 1964, a Voting Rights Act of 1965, and those Democrats started moving from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party. So the first battle in the Civil War, post the actual Civil War, is actually won by us because we moved white supremacists and Democrats who did not believe in our cause, known as Dixiecrats, into the Republican Party, and we seized the Democratic Party. They then strengthened themselves in the Republican Party, and the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act and the civil rights legislation was just too much. For more than 60 years, they have been resisting it at every single turn. Our very special guest in this hour is Anthony Modesto Milian. Anthony is a TEDx speaker, a social media strategist, content creator, historian, influencer. Anthony is an independent fine art and photojournalist photographer based in the upstate of South Carolina. Anthony is an inaugural fellow at the Greenville Center for Creative Arts and a grant recipient with the Chapman Cultural Center. His work includes and can be seen in G's Magazine, the Greenville News, and Upstate Forever. Anthony is also a social media content creator with over 400,000 followers across 3 platforms. Anthony has done work for National Geographic, Project Pulso, Wondery, and Eat Loisa. Anthony, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me, as always, Mr. Jackson.
Anthony, I'm so grateful that you're here. An earth-shattering, cataclysmic event the Louisiana versus Calais decision and its impact on the South and in the South and state that you presently live and operate in. How catastrophic and cataclysmic from your perspective is this?
Huge. I live in the same town that your father was born and raised in. But I'm very much aware that we have one representative, one Democratic Black representative, and that's James Clyburn. And as soon as they announced this decision by the Supreme Court, turning the Voting Rights Act into a dead letter, essentially something that's figurative, only on paper, the immediate reaction was, we need to get rid of Clyburn's district. That was the immediate reaction. And this is going to gut not only representation, but it's going to gut Black representation. The Black vote is not going to be as strong as it once was. And a lot of people are going to be severely hurt, not only economically, but their rights are going to be stripped from them. We're going to have people that don't represent us. Even though they don't represent us now, it's going to be even bigger now. And I have never seen anything like this in my lifetime.
Anthony, Jim Clyburn was elected in 1992, just 4 years after my father ran for president the first time, having garnered significant numbers of votes, laying the foundation for moving South Carolina, as you well know, earlier into the Democratic primary process, which really allows African Americans to enter the primary process for the Democratic Party early on and make selections like Barack Obama en route to the nomination and Hillary Clinton en route to the nomination and Joe Biden en route to the nomination. Many of these campaigns were actually saved in South Carolina. And from Joe Biden, we exacted from him an African-American woman should be on the ticket and an African-American woman should be a Supreme Court justice in the form of Ketanji Brown Jackson. The absence of that district represented by Jim Clyburn would be nothing short for African-American politics as cataclysmic.
Right. Absolutely. South Carolina is the first in the nation to vote when it comes to the primaries. So we have a huge stake. And Clyburn, being somebody who has been in Congress for as long as he's been, has a certain amount of relationship with candidates that not many other people have. We have, Barack Obama. We had Barack Obama. We had Joe Biden because of Jim Clyburn. And like you said, because we had Joe Biden, we have Ketanji Brown Jackson, an African-American woman in the Supreme Court. And this is all because of Jim Clyburn in South Carolina being the first in the nation to vote in the primaries. So this is going to be cataclysmic. But, I like to get hope in looking at people who came before me, people like your dad, people like my ancestors, and realizing that there was a time where they didn't have representation either, and they made it work. And my only hope is that we can do the same thing and everything reverse course soon. We have just about 3 or 4 minutes before we come forward in this segment of our show. And I did want to say that this coming week, we plan to have Justin Pearson, who's running for Congress in the state of Tennessee. And hopefully by the end of the week or sometime this week, we'll be joined by Congressman Cleo Fields, as well as Jonathan Allen, NBC's leading political reporter this week on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, to discuss some of these critical issues. But the idea, for example, that since Reconstruction, first Reconstruction, during the Jim Crow era, there was no Black representation in the state of South Carolina at the federal level whatsoever. The fact that in 1992, Jim Clyburn is the first African-American from the state of South Carolina to represent that state since first Reconstruction, and the only one in second Reconstruction, that is post-Brown versus the Board of Education. And the idea that his almost 4 decades or maybe more of service to that community and to that district and to the state of South Carolina, his seat could summarily be dismissed and eliminated, and returning South Carolina essentially to a pre-Jim Crow or the initiation of Jim Crow era ought to be seen as a major statement and subject of national news all across the country. But for whatever reason, it simply isn't. Yeah, I mean,
when you think about the amount of time it took for South Carolina to get one Black representative, that's a Democrat, somebody that represented that represents the best interests of Black South Carolinians. It's disheartening. It's scary. It's not just disheartening. It's scary because who comes after that person with all the gerrymandering and the legalized gerrymandering that we have now? The person that comes after might not, and chances are with the way they're drawing these maps, they will not represent the best interests of Black people in this state. And it's scary to think about. And I feel like on the ground level, we have to get mobilized, not only to get the right people elected, but to make people more civically minded. There's a lot of people in this state that don't vote, or they don't take part in the political process. And really, we have to get on the ground to let people know the importance, because this isn't a joke anymore. This is rights that they're trying to take us back to slavery. And it's scary to think about it.
I was campaigning for Brandon Brown in South Carolina just a few short months ago, and the statistic was shared with me that 800 to 850,000 Blacks in the state of South Carolina did not vote in the last presidential election. Just purely shocking numbers, that any portion of that, let's say 40% or 50%, would have turned the entire state of South Carolina blue had they participated. What is it that we can do to turn that around?
I think one thing hearing that number, because I've heard that number times, and usually when people put that number out there, they put it in percentages. We need to get people to realize that politics starts where you live, right? The most important elections to vote in are the elections that dictate how your streets are going to get maintained, who's on your city council, who's on your county council, and how local money is going to get spent. Because we like to paint this picture that politics starts on the level, but no, it starts on the local level. If you're not satisfied with something where you live, look local. And I think that's the key to people to vote, because it starts local.
I'm thinking in this moment, and I really appreciate this opportunity to dialogue with you, Anthony, that based upon my experience in these political campaigns, and when I think about a state like South Carolina, which could be California, could be Illinois, could be Tennessee, could be Missouri, could be Texas, could be New York, in order to garner the interest of 800,000 people who did not participate in the last presidential election in South Carolina or in any of these states, it's almost as if we have to have a credible African American running who's popular statewide to give every African American in a county an opportunity to see that name on the ballot, to increase voter turnout beyond the district, for example, that Jim Clyburn represents. In other words, if I live in the Jim Clyburn district, that may exclude my name. Jim Clyburn's name doesn't appear on other congressional districts throughout the state. So African Americans in those other congressional districts may not see any hope in the Democratic candidate or the Republican candidate in those congressional districts. But if a Jim Clyburn were running statewide, it would be the unifying force in a larger number of African Americans participating statewide if the candidacy were for governor or the candidacy was for Senate. And that would be true in California, in Texas, in Illinois, in Missouri. In other words, are we shortchanging ourselves? And I know that we are coming up on our break right now, and this question is for when we come forward. Are we shortchanging ourselves by really not doubling down on running for the largest possible offices possible to galvanize our vote at this critical hour? I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with Anthony Modesto Milian, a Democratic and media strategist. More when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
On
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Senator Raphael Warnock is calling the Supreme Court's Voting Rights Act ruling a massive and devastating blow. Speaking on CBS's Face the Nation, the Georgia Democrat said the decision could fuel the redistricting fight.
We will see a devastating impact as a result of this. And now more than ever, we've got to stand up and fight for our democracy.
The ruling voided Louisiana's map with a second majority black district. A federal judge is apologizing to Cole Allen, the California man accused of trying to kill President Trump. Allen, who describes himself in a manifesto as mixed race, black and white, was kept in solitary confinement without access to his attorneys. And former Vice President Kamala Harris is endorsing Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass for re-election ahead of the June 2nd primary. Harris praised Bass for record low crime and a 2-year decline in homelessness. Bass is running on affordability and infrastructure reform. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Recall 67A mobile appointments are now available in your area. We come to you quick, easy, and under an hour. Complete the recall to get $500 plus a warranty worth thousands. Schedule today at CumminsRecall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers must have been feeling some kind of way when they left town Thursday to fly to Houston for Game 6 Friday night. They packed enough clothes to last for a week. The plan was to fly to Oklahoma City after disposing of the Rockets and not think about returning to LA for a Game 7 on Sunday. The Lakers have been in OKC since Saturday morning to prepare for their Western Conference semifinal matchup with the defending NBA champions. Game 1 is Tuesday night. The extra prep time in OKC might be needed. OKC is already a 15.5-point favorite in Game 1, and they are well rested. OKC has been off since April 27th after sweeping Phoenix in the first round. The Lakers also need some extra time to figure out a game plan to defend Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. SGA averaged 33.7 points against Phoenix. This will be a major upgrade in competition for the Lakers in the next round. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This isn't a talk show.
It's a town hall with no walls.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
My name is Cynthia Mitchell. I've been an emergency room nurse in Los Angeles County for 25 years. I've been there through every fire season, every outbreak, every earthquake. Every time Los Angeles needed us, the doctors and nurses of Los Angeles County showed up. And right now, I'm seeing another disaster coming. Trump's cuts to Los Angeles County's healthcare system are a public health crisis in the making. Medi-Cal, public hospitals, disaster preparedness are all at risk, but we can stop it. Measure ER fights back against these cuts. For a half a penny, we keep emergency rooms open, care within reach for working families, and doctors and nurses serving the communities we love. When you vote yes on Measure ER, you're not just voting for healthcare, you're voting for LA. Vote yes on Measure ER by June 2nd.
Ad paid for by Yes on ER, Restore Healthcare for Angelenos, sponsored by St. John's Community Health and Health Justice Action Fund. Ad committee top funder, St. John's Community Health.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Big Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot stomping, heart stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our guest in this hour is Anthony Modesto Milian. He's a TEDx speaker, a social media strategist, a content creator, a historian, and an influencer. Anthony, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Anthony, welcome forward to the show.
Always a pleasure.
Anthony, I say, and I have grave concerns. What kind of concerns? Grave. That neither political party is going to accept the outcome of the November election. That when states, including the state of Illinois now and the state of California, I understand it. Don't get me wrong. They want to play hardball. They want to play the same kind of ball that the post-Voting Rights Act baseball game actually looks like. I get it.
Right.
But when any party decides to essentially eliminate dissenting opinion in its state by having districts overweighted to benefit one political party over and against the other, in my opinion, those states have essentially left the union, and that dissenting opinion within states helps keep the union together. That those caucuses in the Congress and in state legislatures allow Democrats and Republicans to work together for what's in the best interest of their states. But if you have a state that's made up of all Democrats or a state that's made up of all Republicans, and I'm not taking a side one way or the other because I don't like what is taking place before the Voting Rights Act was struck down, and I certainly don't like what's taking place with the Voting Rights Act being struck down. It just seems to me, Anthony, that no side in November is going to accept the outcome of whoever wins, whoever gets control. They will seek to delegitimize the outcome, and in that effect, we are in, if you will, a kind of cold civil war. Anthony, your thoughts on that?
I honestly, what's happening now is, in my opinion, straight up white supremacy. I think for a long time, Black people were doing the work to get rights, and there came a point where this president and his minions, and this has been a long game for 50 years, where they basically said enough, and they played the long game and they eroded every single right. And now this is just one step, them getting rid of or making the Voting Rights Act essentially null and void. And I feel like, honestly, yeah, I agree with you 100%. There comes a point doing this, this is not an American thing to do. Taking people's rights. You know, we go to war to make sure people's rights get conserved. And for some reason, here, it's okay to take away other people's rights. You know, I honestly, like, I really have no answers to what's happening. I really wish I did.
You know, I'll buy into your assertion about straight up white supremacy. We deal with that right here at KBLA all the time. But in terms of practical political matter, it seems to me that when a Democrat is no longer fighting to preserve, let's say, the seats of African Americans or Hispanics within their state, and they are just now after more competitive districts that come to the, if you will, the dilution of minority districts, just so they can have more Democrats. Well, you can have more Democrats. That doesn't mean they're black. That doesn't mean they're Hispanic. And it certainly doesn't mean that their voices are authentic to our problems within the district. And that's a big assumption. That assumes that we actually win more competitive districts as Democrats, because so many of these marginal districts, they move on the idea, to your point, of white supremacy. So if Democrats, whom we have consistently voted for, are not advocating for us, and Republicans have never, since Abraham Lincoln, essentially advocated for us, we are kind of left where Dr. King left us when he argued for our own independence and for us to have the presence of mind to be strategic in making our votes count. Meaning, in this environment, we just can't wake up and say, you know, we love you more than we love ourselves. In fact, I can't even imagine an environment, Anthony, where any of us would ever say we love a political party more than we love ourselves. We love ourselves first, and we want to know what you're going to do for us. And I think that's a legitimate question, even as we feel the anxiety of what has taken place associated with the catastrophic demise of the Voting Rights Act. Anthony? Okay. So Anthony will be joining us in just a moment. I want everyone to understand that this moment is peculiar. It's peculiar in time because we want to stop Donald Trump. And we want Mike Johnson out of the speakership in Washington, D.C. But if there are no African Americans in the Congress, or a significantly diminished number of African Americans in the Congress, because of the collapse of the Voting Rights Act, the redrawing of the state of Tennessee, the redrawing of the state of Texas, the redrawing of the state of Alabama, talk about redrawing Benny Thompson out of Mississippi, redrawing in the state of Tennessee, Stephen Cohen out of that district, which was a district historically represented by a father and son duo, Harold Ford Sr. and Harold Ford Jr. What you end up with is Hakeem Jeffries with a smaller black caucus arguing that he should be the Speaker of the House, but no support within his caucus to be the Speaker of the House. Because once Democrats take control of Congress, they will turn Hakeem Jeffries into the Nancy Pelosi. They'll start challenging his birthright citizenship, asking whether or not a brother by the name of Hakeem is an American. I mean, we're going to go down that road with Hakeem. We might as well not act like it's going to happen. I support Hakeem Jeffries, and I think everybody needs to get over it. I mean, he's a true-blooded American, but it doesn't stop the other side from doing what they do. And that is turning African Americans and using us as some kind of scapegoat in order to suggest that we're arguing and fighting for programs that aren't all American, like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, SNAP benefits, etc. So does either party accept the outcome of the election in November? Should either one of them gain a plurality? Anthony? I think Anthony's Wi-Fi has frozen once again, but he'll be with us in a moment. I don't think so, based on my experience. That no one is running for office right now to build a more perfect union. The Democrats are rightfully reacting to what has taken place in the Supreme Court. That prior to the Supreme Court's decision, which Anthony correctly suggested has been being eroded at for the last 60 years. A few days ago, I went through the actual history of how we arrived at this place. We all saw that happening together in real time and in real space. But then, on the other hand, the Democratic Party's reaction isn't advocating for the Voting Rights Act at this moment either. They've had a number of opportunities with Democratic presidents and Democratic Congresses to pass the John Lewis Act. They didn't pass it, didn't see it as a priority for them now. And now we find ourselves in this not debate to keep more African Americans in Congress, but to create more competitive districts so that Democrats can elect more Democrats to Congress. And that doesn't necessarily mean me and you. I really want that to kind of soak in for a minute, that unless we are specifically saying we support Maxine Waters by name, that we support Hakeem Jeffries by name, we are, we're at the short end of the stick. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., more with our very special guest, Anthony Modesto Milian, a TEDx speaker and social media strategist, when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is connecting you with services and solutions. Domestic violence and family violence is when someone in an intimate or family relationship tries to gain or maintain power and control over another through a wide range of abusive behaviors. Every single act may amount to abuse. Abuse can take on various forms: psychological and emotional, physical and economic, and sexual abuse. The Genesee Center Incorporated is a nationally recognized nonprofit domestic violence prevention and intervention organization, housing women and children from 30 days up to 2 years through emergency and transitional shelters. The Genesee Center also provides support services like mental health counseling, life skills classes, computer training, job referrals, after-school programs for children, field trips, tutoring, and comprehensive direct legal services. If you need help or you'd like to donate or volunteer, call the Genesee Hotline, 1-800-479-7328. That's 1-800-479-7328, or visit genesee.org. Everyone has the right to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Getting around LA doesn't have to cost a lot. Metro has fares that fit every budget. 20 free rides for qualified riders through the Life Fare program. Free passes for students with GoPass, and affordable options for everyone in between. Wherever you're going, Metro's got you covered. Visit metro.net/fare programs.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493.
Hi, I'm Fred Martin, founder of Compton Kids Club. I just want to talk about the authenticity and tell y'all about my homeboy, Tom Steyer. Tom is a rock star. When I met him, Tom gave a grant to schools in San Francisco. All the kids were on probation. We were flying instructors for 2 years to come and help those kids doing performing arts and turning their life around. Some of the kids that he supported, they've graduated from UCLA. Let's fast forward. Tom is in schools in Compton, hanging out with the kids in the piano classes. Brother Tom Steyer hangs out in the studio with us. These are the seeds that he's planted. This has nothing to do with elections. What's coming out of his mouth is not a campaign speech. It's authentic. And when he say he walks away from a business because he want to do his values, he ain't making that up because he's running for governor. This man is real.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. On Mondays, we are in Mr. Krim's classroom, but sitting in for Mr. Krim today is Anthony Modesto Milian. Anthony is an inaugural fellow at the Greenville Center for Creative Arts and a grant recipient with the Chapman Cultural Center. Anthony's work can be seen in G's Magazine, the Greenville News, and Upstate Forever. Anthony, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And joining us in our second hour, our regular contributor, Reverend Terry Hord Owens, is the General Minister and President of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada, an author and advocate for the church living out its calling. She is the first person of color and second woman to lead the denomination. Since her election in 2017, Reverend Hord Owens' ministry actively reflects Disciples' priority of being an anti-racist church, being a movement of wholeness, and welcoming all to the Lord's table as God has welcomed us. Reverend Terry Hord Owens, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you. It's always good to be here.
Terry, it's been a devastating week, and I know we're going to talk about it more in your hour at the top of the hour as we make that pivot into the faith not to fall. I was sharing with Anthony in this hour that I feel as though, and I think I can pretty much confirm, that we're in some kind of cold civil war. Now, I might add that even though the Negro was here before the Declaration of Independence, we got here in 1619. The Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. The Negro is here before the Constitution on September 17th, 1787. Again, we got here in 1619. We have a perspective on the Constitution, even without our citizenship rights, watching conservatives and liberals, Northerners and Southerners divide the Union, break up the Union. And while we were, I don't want to say casual observers, because we were the subject matter of the conflict, whether or not we had an actual say in it is a different kind of a reality, because we simply didn't. We couldn't vote. It took a moment for us to be able to don on the uniform of the Union during that conflict. But still, at the heart of the issue, and even in Abraham Lincoln's understanding, that the Negro was central to the conflict. His inaugural address, the first one, the second one, all centered around this peculiar institution that somehow everybody knew the peculiar interest of African slavery was at heart, but no one wanted to admit to it. That's essentially what Lincoln says, and he deals with it again, of course, in 1863 at Gettysburg. On this question of whether or not, given the way the Democrats now are fighting for more competitive districts and Republicans are fighting for whatever Donald Trump tells them, give me 4 more seats here, give me another seat there. I've argued in the first hour that we are in some kind of cold civil war, whether we recognize it or not. Terry?
No, I've never thought of being framed that way, a cold civil war, but lots of us have been in conversation about whether we already were in a civil war, and people have speculated as to whether or not we would come to an actual civil war. We seem to, because we've been encouraged to forget, right, history that even exists when it comes to Black persons and the history of slavery and even the history of legalized civil rights. Black folks remain the only people in the United States who've ever been legally prohibited from voting. The only people who were categorized as 3/5 of a person for the purposes of registration, and 13th and 14th and 15th Amendments, plus the Voting Rights of 1965, which came, I was a very little girl when that came. You can say that those amendments never really came alive until that point. We're the only population for whom there has been that kind of prohibition. We're the only group held in chattel slavery, and we're the only group now where it seems to be just okay to let that drop. When you say you've gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, you are specifically targeting Black voters, whether you want to say that or not. And there are other people whose votes may be suppressed for other reasons, but Black people have this unique history in the United States. And I like that phrasing of a cold civil war, no arms, but we've literally lost our minds on this one. We have forgotten our collective historical mind on this.
Let me ask you this question. I know that when March 11th and that weekend where we commemorate marching across Selma to Montgomery, we all go to Selma to symbolically march across the bridge. Democrats are there. Some Republicans show up. We all march across the bridge as a commemorative effort to remember, that period in 1960, 65. Actually, the very day and period that I was born in, so I know it just that well. It seems to me that we now have gone from a commemorative event, a celebratory event, to now a commemorative event, the next March 11th that we are in Selma, Alabama. We will be looking at dead letter law that we are commemorating and not celebrating. But if we're honest, in this moment, from now till November, Democrats are going to be fighting for a majority, not for majority minority districts. They want majorities across the country to stop what's going on. And in this moment, my sense is they're not fighting for us. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that we have to hold them accountable to our participation in the process. That's true, isn't it, Terry?
I absolutely agree that we're certainly not front of mind. And the very idea that, none of us are free until all of us are free. There is something in that holistic approach to liberty, be it religious liberty or the right to vote, that if you aren't intentionally inclusive, then you are de facto exclusive of us. I don't see how you can fight for competitive districts without also ensuring that those districts ensure equitable and fair representation, because representation is also at the heart of the American franchise. No taxation without representation. If districts are drawn as they are on the other side of the aisle without regard, or maybe perhaps with specific regard to race for the purposes of damaging one party or the other, if you're not ensuring that equity, then you're participating in the dismantling of it.
If you are a Democrat and you're listening to my voice today, are you willing within the first 100 days of your administration as President of the United States to see the passage through of the John Lewis Voter Empowerment Act? Will you do that for us in the first 100 days and shepherd it through the Senate and in the general direction of your signature so that it becomes the law to overcome the Robinson versus Calais or the Louisiana versus Calais decision? Are you prepared to offer on day one hundreds of executive orders to overturn what Donald Trump has done in the first 100 days of his service. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., more with Teresa Horde Owens and the Faith Not to Fall on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Senator Raphael Warnock is calling the Supreme Court's Voting Rights Act ruling a massive and devastating blow. Speaking on CBS's Face the Nation, the Georgia Democrat said the decision could fuel the redistricting fight.
We will see a devastating impact as a result of this. And now more than ever, we've got to stand up and fight for our democracy.
The ruling voided Louisiana's map with a second majority black district. A federal judge is apologizing to Cole Allen, the California man accused of trying to kill President Trump. Allen, who describes himself in a manifesto as mixed race, black and white, was kept in solitary confinement without access to his attorneys. And former Vice President Kamala Harris is endorsing Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass for re-election ahead of the June 2nd primary. Harris praised Bass for record low crime and a 2-year decline in homelessness. Bass is running on affordability and infrastructure reform. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Recall 67A mobile appointments are now available in your area. We come to you quick, easy, and under an hour. Complete the recall to get $500 plus a warranty worth thousands. Schedule today at CumminsRecall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers must have been feeling some kind of way when they left town Thursday to fly to Houston for Game 6 Friday night. They packed enough clothes to last for a week. The plan was to fly to Oklahoma City after disposing of the Rockets and not think about returning to LA for a Game 7 on Sunday. The Lakers have been in OKC since Saturday morning to prepare for their Western Conference semifinal matchup with the defending NBA champions. Game 1 is Tuesday night. The extra prep time in OKC might be needed. OKC is already a 15.5-point favorite in Game 1, and they are well rested. OKC has been off since April 27th after sweeping Phoenix in the first round. The Lakers also need some extra time to figure out a game plan to defend Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. SGA averaged 33.7 points against Phoenix. This will be a major upgrade in competition for the Lakers in the next round. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You have something to say, and we want to hear it. KBLA Talk 1580 is engagement radio, not outrage radio. A place where your hopes, your frustrations, and your ideas are welcome 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Real talk, real people, real Los Angeles. KBLA Talk 1580, the station that sounds like the city looks. Tune in on your AM radio dial at 1580. Download our free KBLA 1580 app or listen live on our website at KBLA1580.com.
Unapologetically progressive.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me.
KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to The Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Horde Owens on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Reverend Terry Horde Owens earned a Master of Divinity degree at the University of Chicago Divinity School, where she was a Disciple House Scholar and recipient of the John Gray Rind Award given to the top MDiv graduate at the Divinity School. Reverend Terry Horde Owens is a native of Terre Haute, Indiana, and a descendant of one of Indiana's oldest African-American free settlements. She earned her bachelor's degree in government with a minor in Afro-American studies from Harvard University. Reverend Terry Horde Owens, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Good to be with you, Jesse.
Madam President, can we hone in on Memphis, Tennessee for just a moment? This week we're expecting Justin Pearson who came to national note along with Justin Jones and a white female representative who challenged the state legislature of Tennessee to come up with gun legislation in light of the shootings that had been taking place at schools within the state of Tennessee and our states within the union. And he's now running for Congress in the 9th Congressional District, a congressional district that is largely based in Memphis, Tennessee. So if you are a Memphian, a Memphian, a Memphisite, in that congressional district, African Americans are largely from Memphis, given the rural nature of Tennessee. And they have enjoyed since 1965 or shortly thereafter an African American representative. And for the last decade or two, they've enjoyed the leadership of Stephen Cohen, a great member of Congress, who is super sensitive to the needs of his constituents in the city of Memphis. But now there is talk of dividing Memphis into 3 different congressional districts. And those 3 congressional districts will largely reach out to rural Tennessee, where the weight of the vote are no longer Memphisians, Memphisites,
right,
or Memphians. They are now rural Tennesseans who don't see life the same way that people in Memphis see life, which means that the likelihood that an African American will be elected to Congress from Memphis is highly unlikely, unless, of course, the congressman or the representative is able to build a coalition of people who believe in toting guns, believe in the Second Amendment, whose state representatives and state senators voted to expel him out of the legislature for standing up for gun control, essentially limiting our ability to have a voice in the Congress of the United States. And there are plenty of representatives in the state of Tennessee who believe in gun rights. There's no shortage of them in the state of Tennessee. The dilution of our votes and our voices seem to be happening all at the same time, Madam President.
Oh, absolutely. And I know Justin, his family, they're disciples of Christ. I know him, know his parents. The reality, as you say, is that people of color of all communities, let's just look at Black folks, we still tend, for the most part, to live in the same geographic areas. You're certainly right about Memphis, and Memphis is so close even to Mississippi that there are people in northern Mississippi who may have more in common with people in Memphis than those people in rural Tennessee, just because of the closeness of that geography. But it's certainly the case in states like Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, many of these southern states. Legal segregation is down. The hearts of the people still have not been won in these places. And so absolutely, there's going to be a huge difference between a majority Black city like Memphis and in areas of rural Tennessee. And under this Christian nationalist perspective of the Republican Party, people have continued, instead of drawing lines of solidarity between, say, poor whites and poor Blacks and other people who are oppressed by our white capitalist, white Christian nationalist society, we still want to do that Reconstruction era thing where we teach white people that as long as I'm better than them, I'm good. And so let me stay over here. It's just white supremacy in all its forms. But even white people who live in Memphis and white people who live in rural Tennessee have different issues and concerns, because large city living is not the same as rural parts of Tennessee or any state. That it's a clear pivot to really disenfranchise Black folks and to break up that vote. It's heinous, and the fact that we're even having to talk about it is probably shattering the minds of our ancestors who fought so hard for this.
I'm thinking, Madam President, and I know we're going to pivot to other subject matters momentarily. I'm thinking that the future of the Congressional Black Caucus, first of all, it's going to be smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, if you are fortunate enough to get elected in these newly drawn districts, you're going to be far more conservative than the authentic voices necessary to bring about liberation in the Black community, including the projects that we need. That's number two. Number three, many of these Blacks will not be in Washington, D.C. fighting for reparations. That ain't happening.
Right.
They're not going to mention that because a significant portion of their districts are white. And they don't want a candidate saying, we keep voting for this Black guy who's going to Washington arguing for reparations or arguing for Black progress to the exclusion of our farms and things along those lines. And so when I say that the voices are changing, you acknowledge that that's exactly what's at stake when we lose the gravamen, if you will, of what's taking place historically in these districts under Section 2. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Reverend Terry Hoard Owens when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit Tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
When did watching TV go from a way to relax to a complicated chore? Well, if you're sick of huge cable bills or endlessly searching for the show everyone's talking about, then welcome to Philo. Philo's the streaming service that respects both your time and your wallet without needing to cut the stuff you actually love to watch. This means live TV for more than 70 channels like Hallmark, History, A&E, and Lifetime, plus a huge library of blockbuster movies and classic shows, and an easy-to-use unlimited DVR that lets you save anything you want and skip all the ads when you watch. The best part? You get all this for just $25 a month when you sign up at Philo.tv. No hidden fees, no long contracts, just a genuinely great deal. And new users can try it completely free for 7 days. So head to Philo.tv, that's PHILO.tv, and experience a better way to TV. Subscriptions auto-renew at monthly rate plus applicable taxes. Cancel anytime. See terms at philo.tv.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download that.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It is Moving Mountain Mondays and The Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Hoard Owens right here on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Reverend Owens is the General Minister and President of the Christian Church in the United States and Canada, the Disciples of Christ. She's an author. She's a member of the National Council of Churches as Treasurer of the Governing Board and a member of the World Council of Churches Central Committee. Reverend Owens, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you. Always good to be here.
Reverend Owens, I got up this morning to drop some clothes off at the cleaners and to pick up some coffee at Starbucks, and gas was at $5.35 in the state of California today. It's $5.84 for regular, and almost $6.40 for premium gasoline. And I noted that before the show began that Iran has now launched a series of attacks on the United Arab Emirates, the Emiratis, as a result of Donald Trump's pledge to escort cargo ships and oil tankers out of the Strait of Hormuz, signaling, at least from my perspective, that the ceasefire is coming to an end, and that a hot war is beginning to pick up, possibly again over the Strait of Hormuz. Reverend Owens, its impact and its consequences on the question, I think, of human rights
Right.
for all.
I mean, these random attacks on various boats. There are reports that even civilians are being hit in these attacks, and the very idea that a nation that did not choose, actually, the United States and Israel didn't ask any allies for any sort of solidarity before they leveraged or initiated this attack on Iran, and the language and the rhetoric that Trump is using, going to blow them off the face of the earth, devastation like you've never seen before. This does not engender trust or confidence that a nation that has always claimed that it stood for human rights will actually be in solidarity to make this come to a peaceful end. I think the UN is trying to create some sort of safe zone in order that negotiations can happen. But the Russians and the Chinese are working with Iran on this. And so they've been vetoing certain votes in the UN as well. So it's a situation that, unfortunately, the president of the United States, using a very imperial form of power, violating law and not being held accountable to Congress, has created an environment where the world no longer believes or trusts the United States.
Madam President, before the war, the issues of affordability were dominating the midterm elections. And clearly, the cost of gas is now outdistancing people's paychecks.
Mhm.
They have more month left over at the end of the end of the period than they do paycheck left over at the end of the month. Are you experiencing, and are your members experiencing, the difficulty of what's taking place in the Straits, and are they feeling it at home and at their kitchen tables?
Oh, absolutely. There, I was in the San Francisco area last week, and I was part of a young adult retreat and filled up my rental car before I left. It was already, that's literally a week ago, it was $6.45
Wow.
For regular gas. And I was in Indianapolis yesterday and returned a rental car in Indianapolis. It was $5.15. Now that was a gas station on the airport property, but still, this is insane, and we're seeing it all over the country. We have a seminary in Tulsa that benefits because it was gifted shares of stock by the Phillips family. And so ironically, that seminary's endowment does well when the oil companies do well. That's probably the one place in the country I know where people are in the church are rooting for the oil companies. That seminary does well because that endowment, that person was, Quick Trip and all those companies. We have some connections and where those people have made those investments. But yeah, people are feeling it. They're already feeling the pain, trying to travel, trying to just get from A to B. Driving used to be the more economic option to move around, and it's very quickly not necessarily becoming the more affordable option. But gas prices are not the only things that have continued to go up. Eggs may not be as high as they were, but groceries themselves are still high. I mean, I host our family for Easter dinner every year, a good 20 people. And every year I've been struck by how much more expensive it is to do pretty much the same menu for about the same amount of people as it was the year before. So people are, young people in particular, you got talking about clergy who in many cases are already not making close to a living wage. There are different cultural understandings of both pastoral authority and how much clergy should make, but clergy are not doing well in this environment, particularly in a healthcare market where those healthcare subsidies went away. Our pension fund stepped in at the beginning of the year to give some protection and help to about 1,000 clergy just to kind of get them through 2025. But people are hurting all the way around. And to tell people they need to make some short-term sacrifices for a very ill-defined goal is just not helpful.
Do you sense any movement or cracks within the MAGA coalition as a result of the cost of living, the cost of gas, the cost of schooling, the basic necessities of life? And the reason I raised that question is, as you well know, my father put a tremendous amount of emphasis coming out of the 60s and the 70s on the idea of a coalition of Democrats or progressives who could win needed to be in the form of a rainbow coalition, uniting people around their colors and their interests. But in this economic environment, I've argued that maybe we need to reflect upon the Painbow coalition. And the Painbow, meaning that there are a lot of people who are suffering. And I'm wondering if you sense that there is any abandonment in the MAGA coalition that could lead to a different outcome for control of the Congress and or even the Senate in 2026 as a result of the pain that the people are feeling.
I think I do see some cracks. And, I pay close attention to the news as we all do. And even listening to clergy in different parts of the country. And again, we're a multicultural church, 80% white, but still Black, Hispanic, Asian, Pacific Islander, all in that mix. And depending upon what part of the country you're talking about, there are people who I think you're going to see some of that in my home state of Indiana. The Republicans in Indiana, as you know, resisted Trump's command to redistrict and basically said, we know better what's better for Indiana than you do. I have to admit, I was surprised, but delighted that they took that tack. The war and the real uncertainty that the war has generated in making that economic pain, there's no end in sight to it. And I think that you're starting to see leaders around the fringes. I think there's probably still a core group of MAGA people who will be with him. But I do think that if we really learn to sit down and talk to one another and name these things that we have in common, regardless of the other things that we disagree about, name these things that we have in common, I think Democratic and more progressive candidates have a real opportunity to build that Painbow coalition. Nothing like self-interest, but we've been people have been lied to, and made to think that there's only one pivot, one access point for that coalition. In many cases, that's either race or, but there are more of us who are sharing in this. This is not just the lowest income folks. This is now hitting middle income and other people. I'm like, I got $2 gallons worth of gas, and I paid almost $14 for 2 gallons of gas. It's like, what is that going to start to mean? We've got folks who can't put crops in the ground, yield in the Midwest. This is an agricultural area. Farmers are going to feel the pain of this. Fertilizer, think of all the products that use petrol as an input. It's going to start hitting, we're only 60 days into it, but people are going to start feeling real pain very soon. And I can only hope that we'll be deft and careful as we outline what these points of pain are, and making the case that we share them. And so therefore, we should work together. I see some cracks. I don't think MAGA is going to just pick up and turn, but I think there's enough shift that we can make some things happen.
Madam President, do you see or feel any movement in the key voting bloc of women?
You know, there are those, some of my Black female friends now, we're still mad. You know, we're still mad over what happened because, you know, we were that 92%. And I hear rhetoric around that. I hear rhetoric around that. I see it in local congregations. I've been in Georgia, Oklahoma. I've been in Tennessee just in the last few months since I've gotten back from sabbatical. I've been in California, in the Bay Area, and everywhere I go. And again, disciples, we're densest in the red states. So the places where I'm traveling, when I'm talking to my own church, and even in ecumenical spaces, I'm hearing more women lobbying for peacemaking. I'm hearing more women concerned about those kitchen table issues. I only hope that people will put their money where their mouth is in terms of voting, because those same women made those same arguments in 24 and abandoned the cause in large numbers.
Mm-hmm. You know, I hope I think one of the motivating factors for women have been the extraordinary progress that they've made in national elections, from Hillary Clinton to Kamala Harris. The rise, if you will, of women statewide in senatorial campaigns and even as the chief executive of states. And I'm thinking that when you look at the aggregate of a state, these aren't women who are running in a congressional district where there might be 10 congressional districts in the entire state, where they're focusing on one district.
Right.
All 10 districts get to vote on a woman.
Right.
And when women statewide feel that way, they look at victories on the scale that we haven't seen in the country. Do you sense that there will be any impact on women representatives in the Congress and in state legislatures as a result of the striking down of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act?
You know, I think that it may be white women who are the beneficiaries of that. I think people sometimes play.
Are you suggesting Black women would be penalized? They would be penalized because of their Blackness being
of their blackness. Yes.
Isn't that something?
I do think white women are more likely. If women benefit, it won't be Black women. I think the race. I get this question all the time. Is, you know, what's harder, being Black or being a woman? No question. It's harder being Black. People are more likely to turn against you and oppose you if you're Black. Being a woman is not going to trump being Black.
So, for example, in California, a Maxine Waters, her district could theoretically be redrawn or challenged as a Voting Rights Act district because she's a Black woman, but a white woman could be running for a similar district, receive no challenges whatsoever, and be treated to some degree as the Democrat or the Republican who advances in ways that a black woman would be punished simply for being from a black community.
Absolutely. I just think that's why Michelle Obama has said she'll never run for president. She says the nation doesn't want a woman. The nation, I don't think, really doesn't want a black woman.
I'm not counting her out yet. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Reverend Teresa Hord Owens, the President and General Minister of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump is raising tariffs on cars and trucks from the European Union to 25% this week.
We raised the tariffs on cars coming in from the European Union because the European Union was not adhering to the trade deal we have.
Trump says the EU is not keeping its promise to lower tariffs on U.S. automakers. Reverend Al Sharpton is criticizing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for impersonating Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Speaking on MS Now, Sharpton called the accent offensive and racist. Florida Democratic Chair Nikki Fried says DeSantis was trying to dehumanize Jeffries. Tennessee lawmakers returned to the Capitol on Tuesday for a special session on the state's congressional map. Governor Bill Lee says the goal is fair and legal district lines, but Democrats and advocacy groups worry the move could impact voters in Memphis' majority black district. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Recall 67A mobile appointments are now available in your area. We come to you quick, easy, and under an hour. Complete the recall to get $500 plus a warranty worth thousands. Schedule today at CumminsRecall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers must have been feeling some kind of way when they left town Thursday to fly to Houston for Game 6 Friday night. They packed enough clothes to last for a week. The plan was to fly to Oklahoma City after disposing of the Rockets and not think about returning to LA for a Game 7 on Sunday. The Lakers have been in OKC since Saturday morning to prepare for their Western Conference semifinal matchup with the defending NBA champions. Game 1 is Tuesday night. The extra prep time in OKC might be needed. OKC is already a 15.5-point favorite in Game 1, and they are well rested. OKC has been off since April 27th after sweeping Phoenix in the first round. The Lakers also need some extra time to figure out a game plan to defend Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. SGA averaged 33.7 points against Phoenix. This will be a major upgrade in competition for the Lakers in the next round. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We love America in spite of, not because of. And that's the deepest kind of love. This is KBLA Talk 1580. In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580. Your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
Hi, I'm Fred Martin, founder of Compton Kids Club. I just want to talk about the authenticity and tell y'all about my homeboy, Tom Steyer. Tom is a rock star. When I met him, Tom gave a grant to schools in San Francisco. All the kids were on probation. We were flying instructors for 2 years to come and help those kids doing performing arts and turning their life around. Some of the kids that he supported, they've graduated from UCLA. Let's fast forward. Tom is in schools in Compton, hanging out with the kids in the piano classes. Brother Tom Steyer hangs out in the studio with us. These are the seeds that he's planted. This has nothing to do with elections. What's coming out of his mouth is not a campaign speech. It's authentic. And when he say he walks away from a business because he want to do his values, He ain't making that up because he's running for governor. This man is real.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Wally drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Reverend Terry Hord Owens, the General Minister and President of the Christian Church in the United States and Canada, is with us on her show, The Faith Not to Fall. Reverend Owens, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you. Good to chat with you today.
Reverend, let me ask you a reflective question. Soon we will be commemorating the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. During the course of the Kamala Harris campaign, I campaigned in about 9 states on behalf of the ticket with my late father. And I found myself on an occasion speaking at Gettysburg College and at the oldest African-American church in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. A cause for reflection on July 4th, 1776, because the African-American church was there during the Battle of Gettysburg. And as you well know, about 60,000 Americans lost their lives in that battle. But it was a turning point in the war. Sometime in November of that year, Abraham Lincoln would return to Gettysburg with the Gettysburg dead having been unburied. They'd been lying in the field since July. So you can imagine the sensory consequences of 60,000 men who still have not been buried in the heat of the Pennsylvania mountains during that conflict. And he chose to use that occasion to redefine July 4th. That was one July 4th in 1776 was all white men. But on July 4th, 1863, America was becoming something different. She was making a transition. And the idea that government of, for, and by the people would not perish from the face of the earth. July 4th, 2026, Madam President, is quite a different reflection. Madam President?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I was in high school during the bicentennial.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said bicentennial and you weren't in high school during the Gettysburg.
No, not Gettysburg. Did the bicentennial? I've got some supernatural powers if that's the case. But I remember in our little town of Terre Haute, it being the class that graduated in 1976. One of my good friends were in that class. I remember it being just kind of a big deal. And there was, red, white, and blue everywhere. And some semblance of, we were, in my house, we were reflecting on Frederick Douglass's 4th of July,
right.
Address, what to the American Negro is your 4th of July? And I think a lot of Americans, white, black, brown, and otherwise, are asking that question. What this year is the American 4th of July, and what does this country really mean and stand for anymore? I think there are people who are, you just don't hear a lot of energy around celebrating who the country is right now from anyone other than those sycophants who want some sort of Arc de Triomphe, or I heard that there were some plans for like gold statues similar to the large ones that were toppled when Saddam Hussein was removed in Iraq. And then this morning, they were sharing that in an interview, I think with the New York Times or the Atlantic, that Trump is comparing himself. He wants to be remembered as one of the people who's done the most and done the most, and other people haven't wanted to do it by his sheer will of force, and wanted to compare himself to people like Caesar and Napoleon. It's disturbing on, sort of off the scale disturbing that we're approaching a time when people have been willing to allow this man to get away with unlawful action and to really to step on everything that the country says that it stands for. I say to the church all the time, let's be the church we say we are. I say to America, let's be the nation we say we are, and not let this one person ruin, not that it was ever perfect, but even ruin perceptions of who we are around the world. People are laughing and find our tactics disgusting and wondering, how could we let this happen? My 3-year-old grandson, when he looks back on this time, I'm sure he will wonder, what did Gigi say or do? Did Gigi just sit by and let this happen? I think we have an opportunity to shift the current and turn things around, but we have to be very intentional about doing it. But I don't sense in any spaces I inhabit that there's any real excitement about celebrating who we are and what we are right now. I wish that there was as much intention, if we could match that energy with the resolve to restore it, or at least to get it back on the right track. Again, we've still got a lot of work to do, but we have to do, and voting is not even going to be enough. I think if the Democrats are in the majority, they're going to have to really stiffen their spine and just do what they need to do. Just do what they need to do.
I one of the things that I learned in my own theological practice, I don't know when this is going to happen, but I already know how this ends. It does end on redemption. It does end on forgiveness.
Yeah.
At some point in time, I don't know if it's a year from now, if it's 5 years from now, if it's 2 decades from now. I don't even know if I live to see it, to be honest with you. But if the Union is to survive, then as Abraham Lincoln initiated during first Reconstruction, there is this period of reconciliation. We can, as Christians, anticipate a period of reconciliation at some point in time. I don't know whether it's next week or whether it's 10 years or whether it's 100 years from now. I do know that this period is coming, and we might as well prepare for it, and we should be right there to intercept it and help define it in terms of fairness for women, for gays and lesbians, for blacks, for the environment, for all that God has blessed us with in creation, that this period is coming. But the catastrophic nature of a Caesar-esque, a Napoleon-esque type leader, the consequences of that are nothing short of decades of repair that are necessary to right that ship. Madam President?
Absolutely. And I think those of us who do have some form of spiritual practice, and those of us who are students of history also know that at the end of the day, the Roman Empire was taken down. Caesar didn't last, neither did Napoleon, neither did even Alexander the Great. And so that reconciliation process has to be, the path towards reconciliation is paved with justice and truth, and acknowledging what has happened in order to get to a place where
Isn't it something that he would model himself after leaders whose empires eventually collapsed? I mean,
he doesn't know history. He doesn't know.
Who does that? I mean, there's so many other models through which you could live forever. But instead, you'd like to be known as someone who drove a civilization into the ground.
Right, right.
And didn't improve upon it. And it's just a bygone chapter in history that this was once a great nation, and now it is in ruin.
Yeah, there's no, I mean, I do take seriously those professional psychologists who have, named this as malignant narcissism intensified by dementia. There's no professional reason for them not to diagnose when they have sufficient public data to do so. It's only been a political decision that people in that profession have made not to name it, but there are plenty of them out there who are naming it, and it's problematic. Yeah.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to The Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry. She kicks off our week. We have an amazing week coming with Justin Pearson, likely Congressman Cleo Fields, Jonathan Allen, the number one political reporter at NBC, will be joining us this week, along with our regular contributors. I do want to ask Reverend Terry Hoard Owens, when we come forward, about leadership on the horizon, the alternative, the antithesis of Donald Trump. What does she what does she anticipate? And is there hope in the air? I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 with Terry Hoard Owens in just a moment.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. These are hard times for housing in America. Too many in our community face barriers to safe housing, behavioral health care, and affirming spaces for healing, particularly those impacted by poverty and stigma or incarceration. Rooted in South LA, Ahmad supports impacted communities through housing, wellness, and leadership development. Ahmad provides culturally responsive, peer-led support from transitional housing and mental health services to leadership development and youth empowerment. They offer safe, affirming houses for youth, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Therapy and peer support with a focus on healing trauma in Black communities. HIV prevention and care, free testing, education, and wraparound services for whole person wellness. Standing in the gap with health, housing, and hope. Reach out to Ahmad Institute at 323-569-1610. That's 323-569-1610. Or visit amaad.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
When temperatures climb, LADWP wants to help you stay cool indoors, starting in your attic. With quality attic insulation, your home can stay more comfortable during hot summer days and help lower your energy bills year-round. It's a smart way to save. And for a limited time, LADWP has increased the attic insulation rebates to make upgrading more affordable. Act now to start saving. Visit ladwp.com/attic. That's ladwp.com/attic. Getting around LA doesn't have to cost a lot. Metro has fares that fit every budget. 20 free rides for qualified riders through the Life Fare program. Free passes for students with GoPass and affordable options for everyone in between. Wherever you're going, Metro's got you covered. Visit metro.net/fare programs.
My name is Cynthia Mitchell. I've been an emergency room nurse in Los Angeles County for 25 years. I've been there through every fire season, every outbreak, every earthquake. Every time Los Angeles needed us, the doctors and nurses of Los Angeles County showed up. And right now, I'm seeing another disaster coming. Trump's cuts to Los Angeles County's healthcare system are a public health crisis in the making. Medi-Cal, public hospitals, disaster preparedness are all at risk. But we can stop it. Measure ER fights back against these cuts. For a half a penny, we keep emergency rooms open, care within reach for working families, and doctors and nurses serving the communities we love. When you vote yes on Measure ER, you're not just voting for health care, you're voting for LA. Vote yes on Measure ER by June 2nd.
Ad paid for by Yes on ER, Restore Healthcare for Angelinos, sponsored by St. John's Community Health and Health Justice Action Fund. Ad committee top funder, St. John's Community Health.
It's game day. Are your moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keeping you from the action? Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, could help you get back to the game. Skyrizi is proven to help people feel significant symptom relief, achieve remission, and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. Skyrizi is a prescription injection medicine for adults. Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's or ulcerative colitis.
Control is everything to me.
Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 prescribed biologic in Crohn's and ulcerative colitis combined. Learn more at skyrizi.com or 1-866-SKYRIZI.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A-rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $3 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It is Moving Mountain Mondays and the Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Hord Owens, the General Minister and President of the Christian Church, the Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada. Reverend Terry Hord Owens, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Well, thanks as always for having me. It's good to be here.
Madam President, let me call out some names and let me poll, if you will, your immediate reaction and response in light of all that we've seen in about a year and a half of Donald Trump. Your thoughts on Pete Buttigieg.
Really smart, and has demonstrated his ability to be in spaces like Fox News and be clear-headed and straight. I don't know that the United States is ready for an openly gay president, but I like him a lot.
I do too. Pete's a pretty incredible person, and your concerns are, I think, legitimate concerns. We saw that over the course of the campaign when we were campaigning.
I would love to be proved wrong on that, but I'm just not sure. Yeah.
I would love to be proven wrong as well. The return of Kamala Harris.
You know, I saw somebody opining online the other day that they wish she had run for governor of California instead of dipping her toe back in the waters. And I think I would love to see her have a chance more than 107 days or whatever it was to really mount a campaign because she's smart. I'm not sure how the market, if you will, would receive her again as a standard bearer. But I do hope that she returns to elected politics in some way.
Madam President, I'm mixing these up. Governor Gavin Newsom.
Californians may have another perspective. I do like he's been bold. He's certainly been bold, and I think he stood for the right things. I think he's got to get beyond the bold dramatic moves and really talk more policy, etc. I think he could have a good run at it. I'm not close enough and don't know enough about what he's actually done in California. I would love to hear what people there think.
The governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear.
The governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear. I would love to see him run. He is perhaps a candidate who is able to speak of his faith in a way that is not oversimplified. He's not pedantic. He is a white man who has been able to navigate a difficult situation in Kentucky and win a lot of support. I happen to know him because he's a member of my denomination. And I think if he were to get the nomination, I would be in full support of him. I think he's been 2 terms. I think he's term limited, and he's actively, I think, about to come out with a book, if I'm not mistaken, called Go and Do Likewise. But I've seen him speak in many different situations that are non-religious, and the way he brings his faith into the conversation is actually masterful, because he's not evangelical and he doesn't sound that way, but he's just honest about what it means for politics. I think that is perhaps his winning edge, is his ability to contextualize the faith without making it more than it needs to be.
Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Now, I like what J.B. Pritzker has done in Illinois. He's a good example, I think, of, we had one billionaire who did nothing, and we have now this billionaire who's tried to do some things. I'm always careful in Illinois because there's always something underneath the surface that you may or may not know about. But I could support him. I would, certainly want to vet him. But I have been glad for what he has done as the governor of the state where I live.
Governor Wes Moore.
Oh, I like him a lot. I would love to, he has never been shy about saying what he thinks and being clear about what he believes in. And he's, I think, a shining star on our horizon. If not shortly, then he has some time, I think. But I really am impressed by him. And he's been very clear about what he's not going to do and what he is going to do, and who he's not going to be managed by, and et cetera. So I've appreciated his stance, but I like him a lot.
Other than Kamala Harris, I've not heard many women who have been touted as potential candidates in 2028. And I raise these questions because at least 50%, if not more, of the Democratic primary process will likely have women voting. Are there other women on the horizon that you might feel are worthy of stepping in and raising the stakes on the outcomes of 2028?
I think I've become a little gun shy with women candidates, because I really agree with Michelle Obama that we say we want these things, and yet when it comes down to it, we find some reason not to vote that way. We find some reason why the Black person is not the right person, at least for president. And I don't yet know, Maxine Waters, Karen Bass. Maxine is probably too old at this point, if that's ever a thing. Karen Bass. There are a lot of other good people. What is her name? I can't remember her name. There's the newest Black senator, a female Black senator.
Maybe also Brooks or Blunt.
Also Brooks. Yes, I've had a chance to interact with her in some lobbying situations where Speaker Jeffries has opened the room to hear from clergy, et cetera. And she strikes me as being very impressive. And I think there are people out there that just need to be given the opportunity to lead, perhaps within our chambers or within our states, and demonstrate how they operate and what they can do.
I'd like to see Jasmine Crockett and Ayanna Pressley and possibly AOC.
Yes, well, yes.
Damn it.
Jasmine, Jasmine Crockett, I like her a lot, and I really wish that she had won her primary for Senate. And that is what, somebody who just speaks plainly and speaks the truth. That's really what we need. Somebody who's not trying to put on a particular costume in order to be palatable.
She would definitely be in the tradition of Jesse Jackson. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
Yeah.
Our very special guest in this hour has been Reverend Terry Hord Owens. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. Looking forward to tomorrow.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.